everyone. Thinking about jumping into the world of tech. Maybe you've heard about coding boot camps and you're wondering if they're the right path for you.
Yeah, they're definitely a hot topic these days. A lot of people are curious about them.
We're going to take a deep dive into the world of coding boot camps today to see what all the buzz is about.
We'll be using this really interesting blog post from Algo Academy as our guide. It's titled, How Do Coding Bootcamps Work and Are They Worth It?
So we'll be tackling the big questions. What exactly are these boot camps? How do they work in practice? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And are there other options out there that might be a better fit for some people?
Sounds like a plan. There's a lot to unpack, but we'll break it all down in a way that's easy to understand. So first things first,
Well,
what exactly is a coding bootcamp? How is it different from, say, getting a traditional computer science degree?
yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people are confused about that. What's the key difference?
The main difference boils down to speed and focus. Coding bootcamps are intense, short-term programs. They usually last just 3 to 6 months, and they're designed to get you job-ready as quickly as possible.
Wow, that's a pretty stark contrast to a 4-year computer science degree.
Exactly. Bootcamps are laser-focused on practical skills. They're all about giving you the specific tools and knowledge you'll actually use day to day in a coding job. So it's less about the theory and more about rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty with code, so to speak.
Like learning to swim by jumping straight into the deep end.
That's a great analogy.
Hmm.
And speaking of analogies, the Algo Academy blog post highlights some really interesting core features of boot camps that I think help to paint a clearer picture. They talk about intensive curriculums that are constantly being updated to reflect the latest industry trends, tons of hands-on projects to build up your experience, and even help with your job search after you graduate. They really emphasize that these programs are all about preparing you for the real world of tech.
That sounds pretty intense, but also pretty efficient, I have to say. But I'm still a little fuzzy on how they actually work in practice. Can you walk me through the typical structure of a boot camp? What does a student's day-to-day experience look like?
Sure, most boot camps start with the fundamentals. Think HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the building blocks of the web. From there, you move on to front-end development, back-end development, databases, and maybe even a taste of project management. That's a lot to cover in a short amount of time.
It does sound like drinking from a fire hose. But I guess that's the whole point, right? To give you that crash course and get you job ready as quickly as possible. So I'm picturing lots of lectures and textbooks. Is that accurate?
Actually, no. While there are some lectures to introduce concepts, boot camps are much more hands-on than you might think. Expect to be coding from day one, collaborating with fellow students, working on real projects, and getting feedback from experienced developers. Many boot camps even offer mentorship opportunities, pairing you with seasoned professionals for guidance and support.
So it's a very learn-by-doing approach, which makes sense. You can't just read about coding. You have to actually do it. Does that mean students graduate with a portfolio of real projects so they can show potential employers?
Absolutely. That portfolio is often what sets bootcamp graduates apart from other candidates. It's proof that they can not only understand coding concepts, but also apply them to build real-world applications. And it's a tangible way to showcase their skills during job interviews.
That makes a lot of sense. It's one thing to know the theory, but being able to demonstrate your practical abilities is a game changer. Now, the article mentioned different formats for boot camps. Not everyone can just drop everything and dedicate themselves to a full-time program. So what other options are out there?
You're right. Flexibility is key. That's why many boot camps now offer part-time programs with evening and weekend classes. They're perfect for people who are working or have other commitments. And they're also fully online boot camps that offer even more flexibility, allowing you to learn from anywhere in the world. Some programs even combine the best of both worlds with hybrid models that blend online learning with in-person workshops and networking opportunities.
That's great to hear. It sounds like there's a format out there for everyone, regardless of their individual circumstances. Okay, so we've covered the basics of what a coding boot camp is and how it works. But now I'm really curious to dive into the nitty-gritty. What are the main advantages and disadvantages of going this route? What are some of the things that people should be aware of before they make a decision?
Definitely. Understanding the pros and cons is crucial when making an informed decision about your future. We'll explore both sides of the coin in more detail.
All right, so let's start with the good stuff. What are some of the potential advantages of choosing the bootcamp path? What are the things that might make someone say, yes, this is the right choice for me?
Well, we've already touched on the accelerated learning aspect. Boot camps can be a fantastic way to gain in-demand skills and jumpstart a tech career much faster than you could with a traditional degree, especially if you're looking to make a career change.
Yeah, that speed and efficiency seem like major selling points for a lot of people, especially in today's fast-paced world where everyone wants to see results quickly. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Absolutely. If speed is a priority, boot camps have a clear advantage. They condense what might take years of traditional education into just a few months, and they focus specifically on the skills employers are looking for right now. Plus, many boot camps offer built-in job support, connecting you with potential employers and helping you navigate the job market. It's like having a built-in career coach guiding you through the process.
That's a huge plus. It's one thing to learn the skills, but it's another thing entirely to know how to market yourself and land that first job in the tech industry. So having that support system can make all the difference. And thinking back to what you said earlier about building a portfolio of real projects, it sounds like bootcamp grads have a tangible way to demonstrate their skills to potential employers, something they can actually point to and say, look what I built.
Exactly. That portfolio is often what sets bootcamp graduates apart from other candidates. It's proof that they can not only understand coding concepts, but also apply them to build real-world applications. And it's a tangible way to showcase their skills during job interviews. And on top of that, you're surrounded by other motivated individuals and instructors who are often industry professionals. The networking opportunities can be invaluable both during the program and long after you graduate.
Networking is so key, especially in a field like tech. So having access to that network of professionals and peers can be a real game changer. But let's not sugarcoat things. What about the potential downsides? What are some of the things that might make someone hesitant about enrolling in a boot camp? What are the things that might make them say, maybe this isn't the right choice for me?
You're right. It's crucial to be aware of the challenges as well. And the intensity of a boot camp, while it's a huge advantage in terms of speed, can also be a drawback for some people. You're essentially immersing yourself in code for months on end, which can be incredibly demanding and overwhelming. It takes a certain level of dedication and resilience to thrive in that kind of environment. Burnout is a real risk.
That's a really important point. It sounds like you need to be prepared to fully commit and have a certain level of self-discipline and stamina to keep up with the pace. Are there any other potential downsides we should be aware of?
Another thing to keep in mind is that boot camps might not provide the same depth of theoretical knowledge as a traditional computer science degree. If you're interested in specialized roles that require a deep understanding of the underlying principles of computer science, for example, if you're interested in artificial intelligence research or something like that, a boot camp might not be the best fit.
So it's really about aligning your learning path with your career goals. If you're looking to get into web development or another in-demand field quickly, a boot camp could be the perfect springboard. But if you're envisioning a career that's more research-oriented or requires a deeper theoretical foundation, then a computer science degree might be a better choice in the long run. And I imagine the quality of boot camps can vary quite a bit, right? Not all programs are created equal. So how do you know if you're choosing a good one?
You're absolutely right. Not all boot camps are created equal. It's really important to do your research before enrolling in any program. Look for boot camps that have a strong track record, experienced instructors, and a curriculum that's aligned with the latest industry trends. Check out online reviews, talk to alumni, and compare job placement rates to get a sense of the quality and outcomes of different programs.
That's great advice. It sounds like doing your due diligence is really important when making this decision. And it's also worth noting that some employers might still have a preference for candidates with traditional degrees, even if bootcamp grads have the skills, right? Is that becoming less common as bootcamps become more popular and recognized?
You're absolutely right to bring that up. It's true that some employers, especially more traditional companies, might still have a bias towards candidates with traditional degrees. But the good news is that the perception of boot camps is definitely evolving. Many tech companies, especially startups, and those in the fast-moving world of web development, are starting to recognize the value of practical skills and experience, and they're increasingly open to hiring bootcamp grads. However, it's still a good idea to research the hiring trends in your specific area and target companies that have a track record of hiring from boot camps.
That's a really important point. It's all about being strategic and doing your homework. Okay, so far we've learned that while coding bootcamps can offer a fast track into a tech career with practical skills and a portfolio of real projects, it's not a guaranteed ticket to success. You still need to put in the work, choose a reputable program, and be strategic about your job search. And of course, we need to talk about the cost. While boot camps are typically more affordable than a four-year degree, they still require a significant financial investment.
Exactly. It's not a decision to be taken lightly. Weigh the costs and benefits carefully and make sure that a boot camp aligns with your financial situation and your long-term career goals.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored what coding boot camps are, how they work, and we've weighed the pros and cons. But before we move on, I think it's important to acknowledge that boot camps aren't the only path to a tech career. The Algo Academy blog post that we're using as our guide today also compares boot camps to several other alternatives. And I think it's really important to explore those options as well so that our listeners can make a truly informed decision about which path is right for them. What do you think?
I completely agree. It's all about finding the right fit for your individual learning style, career goals, and circumstances. Now that we understand the bootcamp model, let's dive into these alternatives and see how they stack up.
So let's dive into some of those alternative paths that the Algo Academy article mentions. I'm particularly interested in those self-paced online learning platforms. Like Algo Academy itself, they seem like a really popular option these days.
They are, and for good reason. They offer a ton of flexibility, which is a huge draw for a lot of people.
I can definitely see the appeal. But I'm curious, what are the main differences between those platforms and the bootcamp experience? They both seem geared towards helping people learn to code.
Yeah, they definitely share that goal. But the key difference, like you said, is flexibility. With online learning platforms, you're the one in control. You learn at your own pace, on your own schedule, and from wherever you happen to be. You don't have to quit your job or relocate to attend a boot camp. You can learn during your lunch break, after work, on weekends, whenever it fits into your life.
That sounds pretty appealing to me. I like having the freedom to learn at my own speed, but I also know myself. And I sometimes struggle with staying motivated when I'm learning something new on my own. Is that a common challenge with self-paced learning? Do people get sidetracked or discouraged when they don't have that external structure and accountability?
That's a great question, and you're definitely not alone. Self-discipline and motivation are key for success with self-paced learning. It's easy to get distracted or lose momentum when you don't have those external deadlines and check-ins. But luckily, many of these online platforms have recognized that challenge, and they've incorporated features to help learners stay on track.
Like, what kinds of features? What are some of the things they're doing to keep people engaged and motivated?
Well, a lot of platforms now offer personalized learning plans to help you structure your learning journey and stay focused on your goals. They also have progress trackers, so you can see how far you've come and celebrate those milestones along the way. And many platforms have vibrant online communities where you can connect with other learners, ask questions, get support, and even collaborate on projects. It's a great way to stay connected and accountable even if you're learning remotely.
Those features sound really helpful. It's like having a virtual study group and a personal cheerleader all rolled into one plane. But what about the depth of learning? Does self-paced online learning provide the same level of hands-on experience and project work as a boot camp?
That's a really important question. And while online platforms might not have the same intensity or emphasis on building a portfolio as boot camps, they still offer a ton of opportunities to practice your skills and build real projects.
Hmm.
You'll be coding from the very beginning, working through coding challenges and applying your knowledge to build things that you can actually use and share. And a lot of platforms even offer certifications that could boost your resume and demonstrate your skills to potential employers.
That's great to hear. So it's not just about watching videos and reading articles, you're actually getting your hands dirty and building things.
Right.
And it makes me wonder, could someone even use a platform like Algo Academy to supplement their bootcamp experience? Like maybe to brush up on specific skills or get extra practice with algorithms?
Absolutely. Combining different approaches can create a really powerful learning experience. You could definitely use Algo Academy to strengthen your algorithm and problem-solving skills while attending a bootcamp to get that immersive, hands-on experience and build a portfolio of projects. Or you could do it the other way around. Start with Algo Academy to build a solid foundation, and then join a bootcamp to level up your skills and get that real-world experience.
So,
It's really about finding what works best for you and creating a personalized learning path that aligns with your individual goals and preferences.
I love that idea. It's not about finding the one right way to learn to code. It's about being resourceful and creating a learning journey that meets your specific needs. Okay, so we've talked about boot camps and self-paced online learning platforms. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about the more traditional path to a tech career. Getting a computer science degree. How does that stack up against these newer, faster-paced options?
That's a great question. A traditional computer science degree offers a really deep dive into the theoretical foundations of computer science. You'll cover a much wider range of topics than you would in a boot camp or an online program, exploring everything from algorithms and data structures to operating systems, software engineering principles, and more. It's a very comprehensive education that can open doors to a wide variety of roles in the tech industry, including those more research-oriented positions that we talked about earlier.
So it sounds like a CS degree might be a better fit for someone who's interested in the why behind the how, someone who's really curious about those underlying principles of computer science and not just focused on learning a specific set of skills for a particular job.
Exactly. A CS degree is for those who are passionate about the field itself and want to delve into its theoretical underpinnings. It's also a good option for people who are still exploring their options and aren't sure what specific area of tech they want to specialize in, since it provides a broader foundation that can be applied to a wider range of roles.
That makes sense. It's like building a strong foundation that you can then build upon in different ways. But what about those who are really eager to break into the industry quickly? Is a four-year degree always necessary these days? Or are there cases where practical experience and a strong portfolio might outweigh a traditional degree in the eyes of potential employers?
That's a fantastic question and a really important one to address. While a CS degree can be a valuable asset, it's not always a prerequisite for a successful tech career, especially in today's rapidly evolving tech landscape.
Hmm.
Many companies, especially those in the fast-moving world of web development and software engineering, are starting to prioritize practical skills and experience over formal qualifications. They're looking for people who can hit the ground running, contribute immediately, and adapt quickly to new technologies. And bootcamp grads and self-taught coders often excel in those areas.
So it's really about demonstrating that you have the skills and the ability to do the job, regardless of how you acquired those skills.
Exactly. A portfolio of real projects can speak volumes, even if you don't have a formal CS degree. That being said, there are still certain roles and industries that might require a traditional degree, especially those that are more research-oriented or require specialized knowledge in a particular area of computer science. So it's always a good idea to research the specific requirements of the roles you're interested in and see what educational qualifications are typically expected.
That's really helpful advice. It's all about being strategic and tailoring your approach to your specific goals and the demands of the job market. So if you're unsure about whether or not a CS degree is necessary for the types of roles you're interested in, do your research. Look at job postings, talk to people in the industry, and get a sense of what employers are looking for.
Exactly. Networking is so valuable. Talk to people who are already working in the field you're interested in. Ask them about their educational background, their career path, and what advice they would give to someone just starting out. You might be surprised by what you learn.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've talked about boot camps, self-paced online learning, and traditional CS degrees. What other alternative paths are out there? Are there any other options we haven't touched on yet?
You're right, we still have a few more to cover. I'm excited to talk about those free online resources and MOOCs, massive open online courses that were mentioned in the Algo Academy article. Platforms like Free Code Camp, Codecademy, Coursera, and edX offer a ton of free coding courses and resources. And they've really democratized access to tech education. They've made it possible for anyone with an internet connection to learn to code, explore different programming languages, and even earn certifications in some cases, all without spending a dime.
That's amazing. Free is always a good word, especially when you're talking about education. And it makes you realize that there are really no excuses not to learn to code these days if you're willing to put in the time and effort. But I imagine these free options come with their own set of challenges, right? What are some of the things that someone considering this path should be aware of? What are the potential pitfalls?
You're right, there are definitely challenges to be aware of. The biggest one, in my opinion, is the lack of structure and accountability. When you're learning from free online resources, you're essentially on your own to figure things out, stay motivated, and make progress. You don't have instructors, classmates, or deadlines to keep you on track. It takes a lot of self-discipline and organization to be successful with this approach.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like anything else in life. If you want to achieve something, you need to have a plan, a system, and a support system to help you stay on track. And without those things, it's easy to get sidetracked or discouraged.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why completion rates for free online courses tend to be much lower than those for paid programs. But for those who are highly self-motivated and have good time management skills, free resources can be an incredible way to get started with coding, explore different areas of the field, and build a solid foundation of knowledge.
I can see how they would be a great way to test the waters and see if coding is something you're truly passionate about before committing to a more expensive or time-intensive program. It's like taking a car for a test drive before you buy it.
I love that analogy. It's a perfect way to think about it. Now, there's one more path we should touch on before we wrap up this exploration of alternatives, and that's apprenticeships and internships. These offer a really unique blend of learning and real-world experience.
I'm really curious about apprenticeships. I always think of them in the context of traditional trades like plumbing or carpentry. But how do apprenticeships work in the tech industry? What does that look like?
Tech apprenticeships are becoming increasingly popular as companies recognize the value of hands-on experience and on-the-job training. They're a great way for people to get their foot in the door, gain practical experience, and build their network within a company. Apprenticeships typically involve a combination of structured learning and mentorship from experienced professionals, along with real project work that allows you to contribute to the company's goals while you're learning.
That sounds like an incredible opportunity. You get to learn from the best, work on real projects, and build relationships with people in the industry. But I imagine these programs are quite competitive, especially with the growing interest in tech careers. What does it take to land an apprenticeship in tech?
You're absolutely right. Apprenticeships are highly sought after, and you'll likely need to have some foundational skills and experience to be considered. But don't let that discourage you. There are tons of resources available to help you prepare for apprenticeships and stand out from the competition. Online courses, boot camps, personal projects, all of those things can help you build the skills and experience you need to impress potential employers.
So it's all about being proactive and taking the initiative to develop your skills and build your portfolio, even if you're not currently enrolled in a formal education program.
Exactly. Show potential employers that you're passionate, you're driven, and you're willing to put in the work. That's what matters most. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this episode. We've explored a whole spectrum of paths to a tech career, boot camps, online learning platforms, traditional CS degrees, free resources, apprenticeships. It's amazing to see how many options are available these days, but I imagine it can also feel a bit overwhelming when you're trying to figure out which one is right for you.
It definitely can. It's like being a kid in a candy store with too many choices. Where do you even begin? So we've explored all these different paths to a tech career, boot camps, online platforms, CS degrees, free resources, apprenticeships. It's amazing how many options there are. But I imagine it can also feel a bit overwhelming trying to figure out where to even begin.
It definitely can.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to choosing the best path. It really depends on your individual circumstances, your learning style, your career goals, and so many other factors.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to take a step back and ask yourself some key questions before diving in.
What are some of those key questions you'd recommend our listeners consider as they're weighing their options? What are the things that will really help them narrow it down and find the path that's the best fit for them?
Well, first and foremost, think about your learning style. Are you someone who thrives in a structured environment like a boot camp, where you have set deadlines, regular check-ins, and a cohort of peers to keep you motivated? Or do you prefer a more self-directed approach, where you can set your own pace and learn at your own speed like you would with online learning platforms or free resources?
That's such a crucial point. I know for me personally, I tend to do better in a more structured environment. Having those external deadlines and that sense of accountability really helps me stay on track. But I know other people who absolutely thrive with that freedom and flexibility of self-paced learning. It's all about knowing yourself and what works best for you.
It's exactly. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's about finding the learning environment that allows you to be your most productive and engaged self. And once you have a better understanding of your learning style, you can start to think about your career goals. What kind of role are you dreaming of landing in the tech world? What specific skills are required for that role? And where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Having a clear vision of your career goals is so important. It's like having a destination in mind before you set out on a road trip. If you're not sure where you're going, any road will take you there. But if you know exactly where you want to end up, you can choose the route that will get you there most efficiently. So let's say our listener has a good grasp on their learning style and they've thought carefully about their long-term career goals. What's next on the checklist? What other factors should they be considering?
Well, practical considerations like time and finances are essential to factor in. Can you afford to take time off work to attend a full-time boot camp or pursue a 4-year CS degree? Or do you need to keep working while you learn, which might make online learning or free resources a more viable option?
Those are definitely important questions to ask yourself. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of learning to code and overlook the logistical side of things, but realistically, time and money are often major constraints. And it's better to acknowledge those constraints up front and choose a path that's sustainable for you in the long run.
Absolutely. And speaking of sustainability, don't forget to take stock of your existing skills and experience. Are you a complete beginner to coding? Or do you already have some programming experience under your belt? Your starting point will influence your choice of path as well.
That's a great reminder. If you're brand new to coding, it might be wise to start with some of those free online resources or introductory courses we discussed earlier. Get your feet wet, learn the basics, and see if it's something you're truly passionate about before investing a lot of time and money in a more intensive program. But if you already have some coding experience, you might be ready to jump right into a boot camp or even consider pursuing a CS degree.
Exactly. And one last piece of advice I would offer is research the job market in your area. The tech industry can be very regional, so understanding the local trends and employer preferences can help you tailor your educational path to maximize your job prospects.
That's such a smart strategy. It's like checking the weather forecast before you head out for a hike. You want to make sure you're prepared for the conditions you're likely to encounter. So, to sum it all up, there's no magic formula for choosing the perfect path to a tech career. It's about taking a holistic view of your individual circumstances, your goals, and your resources, and then crafting a personalized learning journey that sets you up for success.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The beauty of the tech world is that there are so many different entry points and so many different paths to success. Don't be afraid to experiment, try different approaches, and find what works best for you. And most importantly, never stop learning and growing.
That's such an inspiring message to end on. I hope our listeners are feeling empowered and excited to embark on their coding journeys. This has been such an enlightening conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure. I'm always thrilled to talk about the transformative power of tech education. And remember, no matter which path you choose, the journey of learning to code is just as important as the destination. Enjoy the process, embrace the challenges, and celebrate your wins along the way.
That's wonderful advice. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of coding education. We hope this episode has equipped you with the knowledge and inspiration you need to take that next step toward your dream tech career. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep that curiosity burning bright. Until next time, happy coding.